Welcome everybody to the channel. If this is your first time, hello, my name is Arlene, a Filipina from Cebu, Philippines, now living here in Washington State for 5 years now. Today's video is everything about Philippine wedding, from getting your marriage license, the requirements, the process, whatnot, to discussing some of the Filipino wedding traditions that you might find bizarre. And third, I want to bring into light the behaviors of some Filipinos when it comes to big celebrations like wedding that you might find unacceptable. Just a little disclaimer, I am not an immigration lawyer, nor do I have a license to practice law in the Philippines. The information that I'm going to be sharing here are solely based on my research and my experiences as a Filipino who has lived in the Philippines for 28 years. All right, let's start with the process of obtaining a marriage license. Number one, you and your Filipina would need to show proof of identity and citizenship. So for your Filipina, that would be a government issued ID. And for you, foreign national, that would be your passport with a valid visa. Second, you would also need to submit CENOMARs, your CENOMAR and your Filipina's CENOMAR. Now, according to my research, your Filipina can actually request for a copy of your CENOMAR. So she can request a copy of yours while she requests for hers. So that's cool. And third, you would need to submit copies of your birth certificate. Your Filipina would need to request this from Philippine Statistics Authority, and then you, foreign national, would need to bring this to the Philippines because it has to be issued from your home country. Now, according to my research, some LCR or local civil registrars are okay with photocopy of your birth certificate, but just, to be sure, just bring the original copy with you. Next, your Filipina would also be required to submit a barangay clearance and community tax certificate, or commonly called as Cedula. This will be issued by the barangay secretary or the barangay captain of the barangay where your Filipina lives. This document attests to the residency and good standing of your Filipina in her community. And you, foreign national, you would need to submit a proof of legal capacity to marry. You can obtain this document from your embassies in the Philippines. Now, for Americans, though, this is what I have read. The United States government does not maintain marriage records and cannot issue certificate of U.S. citizens' legal capacity to marry. However, we can notarize a citizen's statement of their own legal capacity as an ordinary affidavit. The link of this article will be included in the description of this video. Check out that link if you want to use their sample affidavit template, but if you prefer to write your own, that's also acceptable. Now for the notarization, actually effective April 6, 2021, the Philippine Statistics Authority, pursuant to recently issued Memorandum Circular number 2021-004, will allow local notarization in the Philippines of the affidavit of legal capacity to contract marriage. Meaning, you don't have to go to the US Embassy or its consulate in the Philippines to get your affidavit notarized. You can look for a notary public near your Filipinos residence to get yours notarized. For divorced foreigners, you are required to submit authenticated copies of your divorce decrees. And for the widowed ones, you would need to submit death certificates. If you, foreign national, is a naturalized citizen of your country, you are required to show proof of naturalization. All right, additional things to keep in mind when deciding to get married in the Philippines. Both parties must be at least 18 years old. If either party is 18 to 21 years old, a written consent of the parent is required, or the parents can appear in the local civil registrar's office attesting or telling them that they consent to the marriage. If either you or your Filipina is 22 to 25 years old, you would need to obtain a parental advice. If either of your parents refuse to give you a parental advice, actually you can still go ahead and request for your marriage license. It'll just be delayed for 3 months. And this parental advice and parental consent can be done via affidavit form. You can ask a lawyer to issue it for you or to notarize it for you. You would also need to submit a certificate of attendance to the pre-marriage counseling seminar conducted by the LCR. Now, if you have all of these documents that I have mentioned, then you and your Filipina can go to the local civil registrar's office and fill out the marriage license application form. The local civil registrar's office is required by law to publicly post your marriage license application for 10 consecutive days, meaning you cannot get your marriage license on the same day that you applied for it, unlike here in the US. After you get your marriage license, you can now get married with your Filipina anywhere in the Philippines, and it is valid for 120 days. If you and your Filipina would like to have a church wedding, you need to keep in mind that if she is a Catholic, that the Catholic Church needs to announce the wedding for 3 Sundays prior to the date of the wedding. You would also need to attend a seminar conducted by the church. Now, this varies from parish to parish, so your Filipina needs to ask from her local parish what is the requirement, because this could be one day or several sessions, so definitely must be taken into account. Also, if you're gonna marry a Catholic Filipina, you would probably be required to recite some Catholic prayers. And there are some churches that would also require you to do a confession prior to the actual wedding ceremony. And now let's talk about some Filipino wedding traditions so you would know what to expect, or can discuss this with your Filipina if you don't want these to be done during your wedding. Upon your arrival at the wedding reception, this could be a rented place or at the house of your Filipina, your parents, it could be, usually it's the bride's parents, that they would wait for you at the entrance with a bowl of rice and a glass of water. They would then sprinkle the rice on you and your Filipina, because that would signify that your marriage will be blessed abundantly. And then they would then ask you to drink from the glass of water. Then after you and your Filipina have drank from that glass, the person that was holding the glass would somehow drop the glass, because it is believed that once the glass is broken, it would signify that it has absorbed the bad luck. So your marriage now is free from bad luck. And oh, on the decision of when to get married, because in the Philippines, it is highly advisable that you get married on a full moon. You never get married when the moon is about to like transition to a half moon or a quarter moon. That's a very bad omen according to Filipinos. And then aside from the shape of the moon, the Filipino parents would also look at the actual date. It is preferable to get married on an 8, never on a date that would end on the bottom, because if, for example, number 7, you start from the top and then bottom. I don't know, for some reason that's a big consideration when it comes to deciding when to get married. Right. Another bizarre tradition is that the wife need to keep the leftovers from the plate where you and your wife ate, and then bury it in your place of residence. It is believed that if you do that, that you and your wife will have a peaceful marriage. There will be less quarrels and less fights. The next tradition is somehow ridiculous, but others are actually practicing this, and that is brides will tend to walk ahead of the groom after the ceremony and or step on the groom's foot. That is to avoid being dominated in the marriage. This reminds me of the practice of some Filipino parents during baptism, and that is to make sure that after the baptismal ceremony that they exit the church ahead of everybody, because in the Philippines, most of the time you do the baptismal ceremony in mass. So if you do that, it is believed that if you made it to the exit ahead of everybody, that your child will be the brightest, the most intelligent, and probably the luckiest or the wealthiest. I know, stupid, right? Also, in the Filipino tradition, there should only be one wedding per year. Meaning, if your Filipina's sibling got married this year, you and your Filipina should wait for next year. Or if there's a death in the family in this year, there should be no wedding in that year. The wedding should be postponed to next year. And somehow, the fun part in our tradition is the first dance. Usually, during the first dance of the bride and the groom, that people would pin money to their clothes. And there's a town in the Philippines that they go way above and beyond when it comes to this part of the wedding, that it was in the news that the couple received millions of pesos during their first dance. And now let's talk about some Filipino behaviors that you might find unacceptable or even disgusting during this kind of celebrations or occasions. You have probably heard of karaoke. In the Philippines, it's a huge part of our celebration. And if you and your Filipina decide to do your wedding reception at your Filipina's place of residence, there's a big likelihood that even the day before the actual wedding, the celebration has already started. Like, people will be singing, people will be already drinking. And guess what? Yes, you're gonna be funding that if you don't put your foot down. And another thing to keep in mind if you decide to have the wedding reception at your Filipina's place is that people will go there even if they are not invited. And sometimes Filipino time can happen, meaning your wedding will not start on time, so it'll not end on time. So you would be late in arriving at the reception, and there's gonna be an event, and there could be like a delay of like when to start eating. Some of these uninvited guests will not wait, like they would attack to the food already, even if the couple has not eaten yet. Like even the special guest, the entourage for the wedding has not eaten yet. These people will barge in and try, to make their way and eat at your food. Another nasty behavior that some Filipinos would do when they go to celebrations like this is that not just eating there at the place, is that they would also pack or take home some of the food from your reception to their home. I mean, that's fine if it's excess, but there are some Filipinos that they couldn't wait for everybody to have their fill, like they will already start packing food and, sneaking it in their backpacks and whatnot. And I have attended a wedding wherein the couple was just ashamed at the major sponsors of their wedding because people were already attacking the food and there's no more food to serve them. Yeah, so disgusting. And then these people, these uninvited ones, only came there for food. They don't care about the couple that are married. And another disgusting behavior of these people is that once they leave your celebration, they would always find something nasty to say about your event. It could be that, oh, her wedding dress looks so ugly. Oh, the groom, oh my gosh, he's so old. How could she marry him? Oh, the food, it did not taste good. Oh, their lechon, the skin was so saggy. It's no longer crispy. Oh, the pancit, oh my god, what was that? I only saw some noodles. There's not even a piece of meat in there. Unbelievable, right? Like, you wouldn't expect that. Like, you were giving them the food for free, and to be reciprocated with that kind of attitude, like, to be gossip around in the barangay. Yes, this is a part of my culture that I'm not so proud of, and I hope that the new generation will no longer follow these practices of the old generation. That's why I highly suggest that if your Filipina's house does not have a fence, or if she is not living in a gated community, that you hold your reception in a rented place, like, or in a hotel, or at a beach, like somewhere away from your Filipinas residence. And I suggest that you keep it small and intimate, that you only invite those that really care for you and your Filipina, because even the invited ones would not stay all throughout the wedding reception. I have attended a wedding wherein the couple paid a good amount of money per head for the guests in their wedding, only to be surprised that after the food is served, after they're done eating, that they suddenly have excuses why they have to leave. And the couple actually prepared for like a program, for a reception. There will be games, but nobody's going to be joining with them now, would be celebrating with them because everybody's gone. So yeah, it's just sad, right? That for me it's very unethical to do that. But that's the likelihood. That's why just invite the ones that really care for you and your spouse. And also, speaking of invitation, the parents of your Filipina might invite the prominent people to your wedding. And the parents would even demand that these prominent people could be mayor or it could be the wealthiest person in their barangay to be a primary sponsor, like your godparent to your wedding. I mean, it is at this time that you put your foot down because that's just unacceptable. You will only see these people during your wedding and would probably forget about you, or you and your Filipina is just another couple in their long list of couples or weddings that they have attended in the past. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's video. If you missed my video discussing about the cost of bringing your Filipina to America, check out this video. And if you want to know more of my experiences here in America, check out this playlist. It has been a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.